So I would now like to bring to the microphone our second speaker, Miss Julie Vickers.
Yeah, my name's Julie, and as you can see on the slide, I was diagnosed with stage 3C primary peritoneal cancer in 2015 when I was 59, 1st of April 2015, so April Fool's Day, which was, easy to remember. And yeah, exercise is important to me, really important. I'll show you my fantastically well-organised sheet of paper here that I'm working from. So, yeah, I hope it's clear enough. I think I said to someone yesterday, I'm happy in my life at the moment, really happy. And exercise is part of that because it can really change my perception. If I'm feeling, stressed about the cancer or anything at all, fatigued, demoralised, whatever, exercise really turns that around for me. It's a real perception changer. And maybe, when I was diagnosed, I wasn't particularly unhealthy well, I was unhealthy, obviously, but I was reasonably fit. I'd just done a 6-day trek in New Zealand. I couldn't really understand why I was the last one in every day, why I was always the last person to finish the walk of the day. I was like, that's not normally me, but it was like, okay, what do you do? But I was using a mini tram. I've always exercised a bit. But nothing like the level of fitness I have now. And, my brother reckons I'm becoming an Iron Woman and yada, yada, yada. I really am pretty healthy now, pretty fit. At the end of treatment, I saw my surgeon, after I'd done the kind of standard, chemo, I did a bit of exercise during that initial round of chemotherapy. I wish I'd known. I would have done a heap more. But at the end of treatment, my surgeon said to me, stay strong in case you need further treatment. And, again, I didn't really know how exactly to do that. I would say that I have worked over the last 2.5 years with exercise physiologists, and they've been extraordinary. I've learnt so much from them, but I'll try and be a little bit organised and talk about that in a bit. When I came out of surgery, because I did, chemo, surgery, then more chemo. When I came out of surgery, I went to rehab hospital because I lived up 4 flights of stairs. I lived on my own. I really didn't have anyone to look after me. And so I was lucky. I went to a rehab hospital, and that was when I started working with exercise professionals. First time I'd ever done it. They had a really brilliant physiotherapy program there. So I was about, I think, 6 or 7 days after surgery. And, if you have ovarian cancer, you're probably familiar with how big that surgery is. But I got to this place called Walter, and the day after I arrived, the physio came and said, right, we're going for a walk. I thought, okay. But we walked around this block, which had a huge hill. It was a big block, a city block. And I had to stop a couple of times, me thinking, gosh, maybe I'm going to have a heart attack. My heart was just pounding because I was pretty deconditioned by this point, the sort of first round of chemo, then the surgery. But she was so confident. I trusted her. So I walked around that block with difficulty, and with stopping to get my breath back, and thought, wow, I could never have done that on my own. I could never have pushed myself. I wouldn't have occurred to me to go that hard, and I was so grateful that day because it made me feel strong again. I didn't feel like this collection of this massive wound in my body and no hair and, not a very, it was a real demonstration to me of me not knowing everything I needed to know to look after myself with exercise. yeah, and I stayed there for about, I think I was there for 10 days, and I exercised every day there. And again, I exercised harder than I thought was possible for me at that stage of my treatment. Yeah. I then finished treatment and went back to that hospital as an outpatient and exercised with a physio there. I think it was for 6 weeks. And again, I couldn't possibly have pushed myself as hard as they did. I think there's a video of this. I think there might be a little bit of a video here. So if anybody technical is listening, like Jeff, this could be the time to play that video. Or not. Oh, no.
It's a single leg hip raise.
Anyway, it's just me doing, oh, look, there I am. Thank you very much. Yeah, that was me at the end of treatment, pretty close to the end of treatment. And, you know, every day they took me further than I thought I could go. You know, reasons for me to exercise now, it's become a habit. You know, it's become a really healthy habit. I really believe, obviously, that the physical and mental are linked. You know, it's not only helpful to me physically, it really helps my morale around the cancer and every other part of my life because, you know, I exercise so that I can live the life that I want to live. You know, on Monday I drove 10 hours back from the country, long drive, 2 drivers, but a long drive, a long time in a car. As soon as I got home, my niece, her husband, her 3-year-old, and another niece arrived. And I played with them for 2.5 hours. We ate. They were all in my house. It was kind of this really big day. But I had the energy to enjoy it. I wasn't just pretending to enjoy their company. I was really enjoying it. And that was one of those points where I thought, I am so glad that I'm fit because it lets me live the way that I want to live, you know? Yeah. I also find exercise really helpful for me. I can really have anxiety about doing this cancer thing right. You know, there's that kind of what my ovarian cancer support group, one of the people in my ovarian cancer support group, which I really love. I'm in Sydney, so I go to the one in the city there. One of the people in that, when I was talking about the anxiety about, you know, gee, if I could just do everything perfectly, maybe I could make sure I'd be okay with this. And she said, you know, that fear is illogical but unavoidable. And exercise is one of the things that helps me transition from, you know, am I doing it right? Am I doing enough? If I've got that kind of mental head on and I exercise, I come out feeling on top of the world. I really do. Yeah, so it's really helpful for I guess it's my perfectionism and anxiety. And I wouldn't say I was plagued by those, but they were a part of me before diagnosis and they're a part of me now. And the way I exercise now, I actually haven't said what I do. I do work 3 times a week at the strength clinic. It's part of University of New South Wales and the Royal Women's Hospital where I do treatment. Kate Webber is my oncologist, and she was the person who I found out about that through. She works there as well. Glorious woman, Kate Webber. Yeah, so I go there 3 times a week. I do, so that's weights, that's resistance training. I'm trying to really increase my aerobic fitness at the moment. That's the thing that I know I haven't been doing enough of. So I'm really trying to focus on that now. If I'm out of town, like I've just been away for 3 weeks, so I was swimming laps at an Olympic pool, I was walking fast, and I was really lucky there was a horse I could ride because I grew up in the country, so I was horse riding. Yeah. What else? I'm going back to my beautiful piece of paper. Yeah, the other thing, you know, for me, I'm someone who eats for comfort, you know, and I know it's important to try not to put on weight with this disease, with this cancer, and exercise really helps me to eat well. You know, it stops, if I've got a choice between you know, if I exercise, I no longer have that impulse to overeat. And that's a fairly personal thing to share, I guess. But, you know, I think, you know, that's always been part of me as well. I've always been someone who is quite capable of eating for comfort. And exercise, if I'm exercising, I'm much more likely to be eating well, you know, to be eating the way that is going to be helpful to me, not harmful. Yeah. What else? There's, in terms of motivation for exercise, you know, the reason that the survivorship program at the Strength Clinic at UNSW was so great for me is because I'm booked in there. I'm booked in 3 times a week. I work with a graduate exercise physiologist each time, so they're these fantastically well-educated, you know, fit young people. It costs me $15 each time I go, and so I can afford to do that 3 times a week. But the thing about that is that if I don't turn up, they're fully booked. Someone else doesn't get to exercise. I'm keeping somebody else out. But also I let down the exercise physiologist, you know, the graduate exercise physiologist. If I don't turn up, they don't get to, you know, do part of their study. So that's one of the reasons why I turn up. It's a habit. It's close. I walk there in about 7 minutes. For me, I never feel like going there, in truth. I've always got the, I think I'm too tired. I don't feel like it. You know, I often walk there thinking, I don't really want to do this. Every time I do it, I walk out thinking, I'm so glad I did that. You know, it never fails. Like, it's really important that exercise is a habit for me. Otherwise, I would took, you know, the reasons for not doing it would win every time. The only time I did struggle with exercise was this over Christmas. I did 6 weeks radiotherapy for little spots of recurrence, and the nausea was pretty bad. I cancelled once and I left once. I was working out there and feeling really nauseous. I'd come home from exercise the time before and been sick, the only time I was. And I actually left that time, you know, because they work me pretty hard there, much harder again than I'd be doing on my own. And that particular time, like this last Christmas, I left in the middle of a session. It's the only time I've ever done it. I was in tears. I felt so sick. It was just too much. But I went back, and they were so kind. My God. They didn't make me, I didn't feel embarrassed. You know, they were really sensational about it. And I guess, you know, for me, that's another reason to work. I get so much encouragement from those EPs, like so much. Yeah. And because of them, I really never have been stronger. I've got pretty remarkable muscles these days, you know, and nothing that I want to do physically is a problem. I'll probably have to do chemo again. You know, my disease is still there. It's growing. It's not going too fast. So very interesting to hear Vanessa talk about exercise, perhaps presenting the cancer sweating as aggressively. My CO125 is there. It's rising. I'm pretty sure I'll have to do chemo again probably next year. It'll be the second time. And I know that that's not too bad. I'm 3.5 years in. I've done one sort of, course of chemo, as it were, in that initial treatment. If I have to do chemo again, I'm going to be exercising as hard as I possibly can through it. I'll be going to the Strength Clinic. They're happy for me to go there. What else? I think I've probably nearly talked for long enough. I do try and make exercise easy for myself. I bought a mini tramp because if I get to the end of the day and I haven't exercised, I try and exercise 5 or 6 days a week. The 3 days a week I go to the Strength Clinic are so easy because I just go. They're in my diary, I go. But outside of that, I bought a mini tramp because if I get to the end of the day and I'm feeling a bit sluggish or a bit like, you know, that kind of lethargy, that maybe just comes with being 62 a bit as well, I can just haul that out from under my bed. Last night I did 20 minutes of a sort of reasonably brisk jog on the mini tramp. Felt on top of the world when I finished. I didn't feel like doing it beforehand. I rarely do. Unless the exercise is something like horse riding, I pretty much have resistance every single time that I exercise. But what I have is a pretty decent habit of getting through that. And the more I learn about how important it is for the cancer, the more I'm motivated to do it. Just looking at my paper. Yeah, I guess I'd really like to emphasise the kindness of the EPs that I work with. They don't sort of pamper me. You know, they don't say, oh, you poor thing or anything like that. I don't want that from them, but they are kind. You know, and if I'm a little bit demoralised, they are very good at telling me I'm doing a good job and keeping me going. And their expectation is that I will do the exercise, and I meet that expectation, I have to say. I find it, you know, it's really an absolutely wonderful program. I wish I'd gone sooner. Actually, would like to say I wish I'd joined my ovarian cancer support group sooner, you know. But there it is. I'm not going to be able to do this whole thing perfectly, and I try not to beat myself up when I don't do it perfectly. You know, it's like progress, not perfection. I'm just having another quick look at my scrappy piece of paper here. Yeah, I do think one of the most valuable things for me in terms of exercise is how it changes my perception of my situation. I want to live, you know, as well as I can in the time that I have, and I have absolutely no idea how long that might be. But I want to have the energy to live really well. I want to have the exercise, the energy to enjoy my life, and I know how important exercise is for that. Like, not just theoretically, but I have the experience of that, you know, constantly, routinely. Yeah, I don't think I've got anything else to say. I think that's about 15 or 20 minutes. Yeah, so Vanessa, I think that's over and out from me.
Wow, thank you so much, Julie, for, you know, sharing your experiences so honestly and openly, and sharing, you know, how exercise has benefited you. You made some great points in that presentation that I know everyone will take home. And I think the one that stood out for me is that you don't always have to love the exercise that you do. Sometimes you actually hate it, you don't want to be doing it, but that you feel so great after, and that long term it actually gives you energy. So it was just so fantastic to hear that from you. Thank you so much. We do have a couple of questions. I'm just reading what a couple of people have written. One of our viewers has said, I can relate to what Vicky's saying about exercise and making ourselves do it, and we wish her all the very best. So that's just for you, Julie. Someone's asked if we can see the full content of the webinar. Yes, it will be posted on the Ovarian Cancer website in the next week or so. So look out for that. A question for you, Julie. You talked about support groups that you attend. Someone's asking, where can you find them? I'll let you answer, and then I'll also add my bit.
Yeah, it's an ovarian cancer support group. It's run by ovarian cancer in the city. The moderator, whose surname I can't remember, Mandy, she's such a skillful woman. I like her a lot. And I'm slowly getting to know, I've probably been 5 or 6 times now. I'm slowly getting to know the other women. This is quite a long answer. Short, to answer the actual question, it's in the city. It's the second Monday of every month. It's an hour and a half. And I found it through Ovarian Cancer Australia. That's it.
Yeah, so I'll just add, thanks, Julie. I'll just add to that. So Ovarian Cancer Australia runs face-to-face support groups every month, like Julie said, in Melbourne, Sydney and in Perth. For those of you not in those cities, we run tele-support groups also once a month. So if you are interested, please call our support line on 1300 660 334, or you can visit our website for more information, but we can definitely hook you up with one of those groups. One last question, Julie, and then we'll let you go. And it was, give me one sec, how do you motivate yourself to exercise on the days when you feel really down and tired?
You know, what I find is there can be 95 or 99% of my thinking going, I don't want to exercise, I think I'm really too tired, genuinely too tired, probably shouldn't exercise today. You know, there can be all of that, I don't want to do it. and there'll be one tiny little thought going, you could do it. And if I take that thought in that moment, that little window of opportunity, that's when I got up last night and got my mini tramp out. There was this tiny little inkling of I could. And yeah, that's the sort of, that's the getting up. The other stuff is, like I said, I've got it in my diary. 3 times a week I go to the exercise clinic, and I don't cancel, partly because it lets other people down if I do. How else do I motivate myself? You know, I motivate myself through vanity, partly to try and, you know, clothes. I know it's good for the cancer. More and more and more I'm learning about how important it is for cancer treatment, and I want to live. You know, I want to live as long and as well as I can. So there's that as well. You know, it's kind of high stakes, really. You know, it's my life. And I really know how much it also changes my perception. I can be feeling a bit down, and I sort of feel like 3.5 years in, I've kind of got, a lot of the time I feel like I've got my head around this cancer. I don't mean it's great and isn't this terrific, but I feel like I'm learning to live with it. But if I am having a bad part of the day with it and I exercise, I have a completely different mental state afterwards. It really changes my mental attitude, and that's important too. Yeah, so but it's that little window of opportunity. It's that little, oh, I could get up now. Like if I get up in that second, I will do it. Yeah, that's the answer that I've got, Vanessa.
Great. Thank you so much. And another good point you've raised there, I think, is being accountable to someone, whether it is your trainer, your exercise physiologist, or maybe just a friend. And, you know, once you've agreed to meet someone somewhere, like you said, you're not just letting yourself down, but you're letting them down as well. So, yeah, fantastic. Thank you so much, Julie. Really appreciate your time. There are no more questions for now, so we'll leave it there. So once again, I would like to, I'd like to say a big thank you to our speakers, Associate Professor Prue Cormie and Julie Vickers. We really appreciate your time and the information that you've shared on this webinar. Thank you everyone for being on the webinar, and we really hope that you found it valuable. The recording of this webinar will be posted on our website over the next week or two, and you will receive an email with a link to the recording in the next few days. In a moment, you'll be directed to an evaluation form. If you could please take a moment to fill this in, as your feedback is extremely important to us and will help us to plan and develop future webinars. If you have any questions that you would like addressed, please don't hesitate to contact our information and support line on 1300 664 330. Thank you so much, everyone, once again, and we hope to see you on our next webinar, which will be early next year. Thanks very much. Have a great day.